Today, we are diving into an ancient text that lays out a truly radical system for society. It's a design for living that's built around two interlocking clocks, a system of rest and reset that was designed to make sure things stayed fair and stable for generations. Let's break down how it was supposed to work. I mean, just think about that for a second. What if every 50 years, all debts were just gone? All ancestral land was returned to the original families, and anyone in servitude was set free. And this wasn't a one-time thing, but a predictable, recurring cycle. That's the wild idea at the heart of what we're looking at today.
So this whole system isn't just about that one big event. It's actually built on two nested cycles that work together. You've got a smaller, repeating 7-year cycle that's all about the land, and then a much, much larger 50-year cycle that resets the entire economy. It all starts with that smaller clock, that 7-year rhythm.
All right, so first up is the 7-year Sabbath. This is really the foundational rhythm for the whole system. And, it doesn't even start with people. It starts with the earth itself. The pattern is pretty simple, right? For 6 years, it is business as usual. You sow your fields, you prune your vineyards, you gather your crops. But then, in that 7th year, everything just stops. The land itself gets a whole year off.
And here's what's so key to understand. This is a Sabbath for the land. The command is super explicit. You do not sow, you do not prune, and you don't do any organized harvesting of whatever happens to grow on its own. It's basically a mandated fallow year for the entire nation all at the same time. And this is where the system's genius for taking care of people really kicks in. Whatever the land produces all by itself during this rest year, well, it's fair game for everybody. The landowner, their servants, any temporary residents, and even the wild animals. It becomes this amazing year of communal provision.
Okay, but wait a minute. You're probably thinking the same thing I am. If a whole society of farmers just stops farming for an entire year, how does anybody eat? Well, the ancient text actually sees that question coming. And here's the solution it provides. The system comes with this amazing promise. In the 6th year, right before the rest year, the land is supposed to produce a massive bumper crop. We're talking a harvest so big, it provides enough food to last for 3 full years. It would carry everyone all the way through the rest year and until the next harvest was ready in the 8th year. So that 7-year rhythm, it really sets the stage for the second, much larger clock. And this is the big one, the 50-year Jubilee. This is the grand reset that takes the principle of rest and applies it to the entire society in a way that is, frankly, just radical. The math here is simple but pretty profound. You count 7 of those Sabbath cycles, 7 times 7 years, which brings you to year 49. Now that 49th year is a normal Sabbath rest year. But then it's immediately followed by another year of rest, that special consecrated 50th year, the Year of Jubilee. So on the Day of Atonement in that 49th year, a trumpet would sound all throughout the land, kicking off the 50th year. And its purpose was singular, to proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. Every single person, every family, every piece of property was about to be affected. So what did this proclamation of liberty actually mean in practice? Well, just like the Sabbath year, the land rests again. But the truly seismic shift is this. Every single person returns to their ancestral family property. It was nothing short of a complete, top-to-bottom social and economic reset. So what did proclaiming liberty and returning to your property actually look like on the ground? This is where the real genius of the system for preventing long-term inequality, well, it really shines through. Get this, because this is the core economic engine of the whole thing. You couldn't actually sell your family's land permanently. Any sale was really just a long-term lease. The price wasn't for the land itself. It was for the number of harvests a buyer could get from it before the next Jubilee, when it would automatically go right back to the original family. But there were some really interesting exceptions. The law made a distinction between different kinds of property. See, a house in an unwalled village, that was treated just like farmland. It would go back to the original owner at the Jubilee. But a house inside a walled city, that could be sold permanently if the original owner didn't buy it back within 1 year. Urban real estate played by a completely different set of rules. Now, the Jubilee reset didn't just apply to land, it also applied to people. If an Israelite fell on such hard times that they had to sell themselves into service to a fellow Israelite, the law was crystal clear. They were to be treated as a hired worker, not as a slave. And the text draws a very sharp and critical distinction here. An Israelite who sold themselves into service had to be released at the Jubilee. However, the same text lays out a different rule for foreigners. It says that slaves could be purchased from the surrounding nations, becoming permanent property who were not subject to that Jubilee release. But even for an Israelite in servitude, they didn't necessarily have to wait up to 50 years to be free. The system actually provided multiple off-ramps. A relative could step in and buy their freedom, or if they managed to prosper, they could buy it back themselves. And the price, just like with the land, was calculated based on how many years were left until the next Jubilee. And if all else failed, release was guaranteed in that 50th year. So, we've got this incredibly complex system, right? Nested clocks, land laws, personal statutes. But what's the fundamental principle that's holding this whole thing together? Let's get to the big why behind it all. I mean, really, why go to all this trouble? Why structure an entire economy around these Sabbath and Jubilee years? Well, the answer comes down to a single, powerful declaration about who really owns things.
This one sentence, this is the theological bedrock for the entire system. The text declares that the land can never be sold for good, for one simple reason. It doesn't actually belong to the people. The ultimate owner is God. And that idea just flips the whole concept of ownership on its head. In this system, human ownership is always temporary. The people are just tenants, they're stewards, living on land that isn't truly theirs. And that single theological claim has massive social and economic consequences.
Think about it. Because God owns the land, no human can permanently sell it. That prevents the irreversible loss of family property. It acts as a circuit breaker against those downward spirals of generational poverty. It's designed to stop the massive concentration of wealth and land into the hands of just a few. And it ensures no Israelite can ever become a permanent slave, because they are ultimately servants of God, not of other people. It's a profound system designed to bake liberty and economic justice right into the very fabric of society. And it leaves us with a really fascinating question, doesn't it? Thousands of years later, what can this ancient blueprint teach us about fairness and sustainability in our world today?